Hey everybody, wanted to hop on today to talk about how to be a better buyer's agent. So if you watched my last video, it's all about the Sitzer-Burnett case. A lot of conversation around this case going on. I know it's a big talking point within the real estate community. And I talked about in that last video, no, there's not a lot that we can really do right now. The judge hasn't ruled. It's 11/11. Judge still hasn't made his ruling yet. So we really don't even know the full impacts of what this case is going to do to the industry. But what you need to do right now, be a better buyer's agent. And so I'm going to go over today specific how to have a buyer consultation, everything you need to know, when to have it, what to say, how to present it, to explain the buying process better to your potential clients. Set yourself up to make sure that you are being compensated. If anything does change, have those conversations right away. Exactly when to do it. We're going to go over everything right here in this video so that you can be better prepared to have those conversations and ultimately just be a better agent, regardless of what happens in this lawsuit. There is no reason why you should not be focusing on being a better agent right now. And that's what we're going to get into. So if you don't already do a buyer consultation, highly recommend it. I know it's very common in our industry to just have someone say, hey, Steve, I want to schedule for 123 Main Street. Can you meet me there? And that's all right to do to start, but you got to have a consultation. You should really be having a consultation either before or after this sets up. So if you're not used to doing this, time to start practicing now because you really might need to start doing this very quickly depending on what the judge rules. So one of the ways I like to look at this is, hey, no problem, Mr. Buyer. I could set you up at 123 Main Street Monday at 5 o'clock. Hey, this is the first time going out, doing a showing. A lot of my clients find a lot of value in understanding the process of buying a home more. If you've never done this before, there's a lot of value here. Maybe you've done it before, but it's been a little while. You might need a little refresher course. And if you're selling a home, that adds a whole nother layer of complexity here. A lot of my clients see a lot of value in, just a little half-hour conversation, either before the showing or after the showing. We can go meet at a restaurant, office, at a bar, at a coffee shop, park, whatever works for you. Are you open to something like that? And see what they want to say. A lot of times people are like, yeah, absolutely, let's go afterwards. I feel like afterwards is the most common one that I get because most people are getting off work, want to see the property at 5. They might have some time afterwards to do so. So it's very important that as an agent, you're framing this up if you're getting this done right around that first consultation. And again, even if you're working with an aunt, an uncle, brother, sister, doesn't hurt, sit down, have a conversation like this. Now, the conversation might be a little bit different if you've never met them before or somebody you've worked with before or related to, but we'll go over those differences here as well. So a main part of this conversation is just breaking down the process for everyone. And at the beginning of the day, all of these conversations are going to start with contracts. I know a lot of agents probably want to finish with contracts, not have that. I disagree. I think it's all about setting the stage for everyone and getting that done right away. Obviously, if they want to go look at 123 Main Street, the fact that we got to go see that shows there is a listing contract in place. And that's where these relationships start, is with a contract. So I'll sit down, talk to them about what this process looks like. Hey, Johnny, my buyer, if you're looking at buying a home, it's important to kind of understand exactly what's happening and where the processes come from. A lot of that starts off with the contract that's in place. We went and looked at 123 Main Street. For that, and for order for that to be listed on the MLS, there has to be a listing contract in place. This contract states, that it gives the agent the ability to show this home, to market this home, to put it on MLS. And a lot of times people might even ask, oh, you weren't the listing agent? No, if you got them on a Facebook ad or something like that, they might think you're the listing agent. And it's good to kind of clear that up. Say, no, I am not the listing agent, but I'm here to represent you as a buyer. And that also includes another contract, the buyer representation agreement, and walk them through what that contract looks like within your state. It's different everywhere you go. I'm based out of Minnesota. We have a foreign agency relationship. You got to get this out at the first substantive contact anyway. Gets all these things out right away. Make sure you're checking all these boxes, which, regardless of what happens with that lawsuit, we're going to have to really shore up our paperwork and how we're talking to people anyway, getting it out right away, walking through the buyer representation agreement. On there, at least in Minnesota, it says, hey, this is what I charge. This there's a good chance the sellers are going to offer some compensation. And if they do that, then you don't owe me anything anyway. And having that conversation, because sometimes, depending on what happens here, you might have to have a different conversation. But either way, start having those, going through what that looks like now. So there's a listing contract over here for the sellers. We're going to have a buyer contract here. And we find a property that we want, we're both going to kind of meet in the middle with a purchase agreement. And we're going to have this contract in place that allows you to buy the home and have equitable right to it throughout the process. Here are the big terms of the purchase agreement. Here are the things that we're looking for: earnest money, the close date, the purchase price, inspection contingencies, mortgage contingencies. Walk them through all this stuff so they have a very good understanding of what's in there, what they're going to be signing, eventually if they want to put put an offer in. And I always like to reassure people, as we're going through this, you're going to have questions about this as we go anyway, right? So yes, I'm going to walk you through the purchase agreement now. When we put that first offer in, you're probably going to have a lot more questions about it, and that's okay. Feel free to ask those same questions later now too, but I want to make sure you have a good understanding of what everything is now. All right, once I've gone through all of that, now I'm going to kind of go into, hey, does somebody I haven't met before? I'm going to go into them, my process and the process of my team and my brokerage. I'm going into those things right now. So, say things like, hey, my team was number 22 in the state of Minnesota last year. Now, maybe you're not a part of a team and you don't have that. Maybe your brokerage is number one in your state or number two in your state, or whatever it happens to be. Make sure you're talking yourself up, giving your resume, but why they should work with you. What's your unique selling proposition? How are you going to help them get into the best home possible for them? And how are you going to ensure that your brokerage or your team is there to help support them? Again, we might, depending what happens with this lawsuit, we have to build value what's here, because it might be in a situation where the buyer is paying you out of their pocket for your representation. You have to show them all the things that you're doing and why you're worth the money that you're asking for. Now, once I've gone over me and my team, buyer contracts, all these contracts, I like to move into the pre-approval process. Not to be able to buy a home if you're not pre-approved for a mortgage. And obviously right now, interest rates are a big topic. They're very volatile. They're on the higher end right now, sliding down a little bit, but odds are, someone's looking to buy a home, they have some questions about interest rates, what they're doing, how much is my monthly payment, walk them through this process. Now, odds are you are not a loan officer. So you have to be very careful of what you say here. I'm typically just sticking to the facts, right? Hey, rates are right around here. I just had someone lock. They were at 7.5. I don't know exactly where they're at today. And they're probably going to change quite a few times between now and we actually put an offer in. But I need you to get in touch with a loan officer. I can refer you to one if you would like to. Otherwise, I will work with anyone that you want to work with. Now, again, obviously, there's the rest of things here. Make sure you're staying within those guidelines as far as recommendations go, but you should be able to point them in the direction to help them get pre-approved. I typically just walk them through very basically, the pre-approval process. What are they going to look for? Well, they're going to look for what your debt-to-income ratio is, what your credit score is, how much cash you have on hand. Those are the big three things that they're going to look for. And a lot of times they ask, well, what is a debt-to-income ratio? Explain them through what the debt-to-income ratio are. Hey, your monthly income versus your monthly debts. That's how much you're going to be able to borrow to get your next home. And then your credit score and your down payments are all going to factor into that stuff too. And I like to talk about down payments and closing costs at this point in time too, because they might not be very familiar with it. It might be, hey, I'm coming up on 20% down, but I don't quite have 20% down. Is that okay? Yes, absolutely. Depending on what, you qualify for. I've seen people qualify for as little as 3% down. I also like talking with you what those closing costs look like. Here in Minnesota, average is right around 3% for your closing costs. You got to pay for the originations. You got to pay for title work. You're going to prepay your homeowner's insurance. You're going to prepay your taxes. All that's clumped in there, but make sure you have a conversation around that so they fully understand, what that money looks like when they're moving in to try and get their next home. They have full understanding there because, again, we don't have full control over who they use from a loan officer. So there's a from my experience anyway, a really good chance a loan officer isn't breaking this down for them as well as they probably should. So make sure we're doing that process as well. And once they have a good understanding of that, I'm just going to keep moving down the list. So, all right. So we've gone over representation. We've gone over me. We've gone over the loan process. Now let's talk about actually looking at homes. I know we just went and looked at 123 Main Street or about to go look at 123 Main Street. What about this home did you really like? What made you click that button or send me a text message and say, hey, let's go look at 123 Main Street. What were the big things that you were looking at there? And at this point, they're going to start talking about a lot of different things. And it's important that, maybe you're taking some notes right now. However you want to make this buyer consultation, I do have a little booklet that I bring with me that I'm filling things in right now about, maybe there's school districts they want to be in. Maybe there's certain bedrooms they want to be in, a certain layout they want to be in, a certain neighborhood that they want. I'm writing these things down as we kind of go through here. And this can be either formal in a booklet or just pen and paper. It doesn't need to be super fancy. And if you like the booklet idea, either drop a comment below, email me, and I can tell you where I got mine. Honestly, it was just on Etsy, a super cheap template that you can do on Canva and edit it yourself. Happy to share you with what mine looks like. Otherwise, feel free to make your own here that has these components with it. But make sure you're taking notes here and fully understanding what they're looking for and why they're looking for it. And kind of walk them through some of these questions. We have a very popular school district here in the Twin Cities. My area, Wayzata School District, is kind of up top. So people say, hey, I want to be in Wayzata School District. Great. Do you have any kids yet? No. Okay, then maybe we should reverse a little bit, make sure we're having conversations about elementary and middle schools too. And just, again, showing you're an expert in the area. So ask a lot of questions, fully understand what they're looking for and why they're looking for it. A lot of people maybe are looking for fixer-uppers. Make sure you're having a conversation about fixing a home. It's not as easy as a lot of people think it is, and living in a construction zone can kind of be a pain in the butt too. I currently am doing a fix and flip in my house right now, doing it pretty much every room I'm touching, and 2 years into it, and I still probably got another year to go. And if you have kids, you have dogs, have a wife, you have a significant other, whatever it is, make sure they're on board with exactly what's entailed here, and that you're fully understanding what that process looks like. And kind of walking them through that. Maybe they want a townhome. Make sure you're talking through the HOA, what restrictions a lot of HOAs have. Maybe they allow dogs, but they don't allow cats. Just walk them through that, hey, we're buying a townhome. We don't always have the rules and regulations up front. At least we don't in Minnesota. A lot of times we don't get those full rules and regulations until there's a purchase agreement in place. And it's a 10-day statutory requirement that you have 10 days to look over that, and you can back away for any reason. But if they have specific requirements, like, I have a dog that's 65 pounds, I know that most townhomes and condos don't allow that. So if there's one that we really like, I want to make sure that, hey, I'm having that conversation of, hey, townhomes, condos might not be right for you. We're very limited, A, what we can get, and B, if there is one that we want, we're going to make sure we're having a conversation with the HOA and ensuring that they allow your breed or your dog size or your number of dogs, whatever it is that you have, that we can get in there. So make sure you're asking those questions and you have all the information, and you can best direct them in where they need to go, because they're probably not going to get that information on Zillow. If they've never bought a home before, they might not know that townhomes don't allow dogs over 50, or they might not allow more than 2 or 3 dogs, so it's up to us to make sure that we're providing that value and having those conversations. It's really hard to do that when you're touring a home, because when you're touring a home, again, you should be talking about that home. And that's why this consultation is so important, that you're getting exactly what they're looking for. Now, I usually have this conversation with them too, that there is no such thing as a perfect home, especially if it's your first home. If it's your first home, this is all about just kind of getting it going, getting into home ownership, and learning exactly what you like. And you don't necessarily know exactly what you like until you've lived in a home for a while. I always go back to COVID in this instance, right? How many people needed a home office pre-COVID? Well, I can tell you it's significantly more post-COVID than it was pre-COVID. So again, the requirements that you think you're going to need when you're buying your first home are probably going to change over time. Maybe you're going to have kids. Maybe you're not going to have kids. You thought you were going to. Maybe you're going to have a parent move in with you. Life is going to change, right? So don't fixate on buying a perfect home to start. Just focus on getting a home. As you told me to have, kind of 3 non-negotiables. Whether it's a number of bedrooms, whether it's a location, a school district, whatever it is, make sure you have 3. And here in Minnesota, a big one is always an attached garage, right? We don't want to have our car walk out to our garage in the middle of winter, or not have a garage and have to scrape our windshields off for half the year when it's freezing cold here. So that's a very common requirement. So it's usually a school district, maybe a garage, and maybe a fenced-in backyard for a dog or something, are 3 big ones. But have that conversation so that you can help them find and look for exactly what they're trying to get and steer them in the right direction and find the right home for them. All right, now that we have a good understanding of what type of home they're looking for, I'm going to start going into the home shopping process. I encourage a lot of my clients to kind of keep a home shopping journal, if you will. Have a little notebook that you can bring with you. Maybe you can do it on your phone. But, if you're looking at a lot of homes, I tell most of my clients, it's going to take 8 to 10 homes to really figure out what you're looking for. And sometimes it's hard to kind of keep all that straight, especially if we're doing 4 or 5 in a day. So it's really important. Take some notes about things you liked, things you didn't like, focus on things that we can't change about the house, right? You can change paint, we can change out carpet. Those shouldn't be, things to get you out of a home, but we can't necessarily open up walls, can't add additions sometimes. We can, maybe not for the right price that you want to do, but we can't change locations. We can't change things like that. So, focus on the things that we can't change. Try not to worry about the things that we can change. Take notes as we're kind of going through this process and make sure you're asking a lot of questions. I'll point out all the things that I see as we're going through, but, if you have questions, always feel free to make that get ready to go. And if you really like a home, like if you're really feeling it, let's make sure we're taking the time, maybe do a double whack through that home, double check everything, because we're still in a low inventory market, even though we're moving into a slower period of the market, but things are still going relatively quickly. This one showing might be the only opportunity that we get to view this home before we need to put an offer in. So if you're really thinking this is the one, let's make sure we're taking our time, slowing down in this one, and we're really looking through and doing our due diligence. Maybe take that second lap, take all the things that we need to take a look at, make sure it's checking all the boxes for us so that we're not potentially getting ourselves into a bad situation. Now, once we've gone through that process, I'm going to go back to the beginning where I started this, pull that purchase agreement out and say, hey, once we found a perfect house, we're coming back to this document right here, and we're going to put an offer in place. And again, here are the big terms that we're looking at. Talk them through how long it takes to get through escrow, how long a normal purchase inspection period is, what we're looking for in the inspection. So really walk them through that process. Again, I like to, tell people that I know we're highly encourage you to get an inspection. And, biggest things we're looking for here, health, safety, structural. Okay, that's what the inspector's looking for. I'm calling them out as I see it walking through the home, but the inspector's really going to take time. They're going to take 3 hours a lot of times in these homes, check everything, check all the outlets, all the windows, all the appliances, take a look. Now, up on the roof, if they can get there, if it's not covered in snow, which is another conversation I have to have with clients in Minnesota is, hey, if you're buying a house in the wintertime, just know that some things are going to be limited. I can't use the AC. You can't run an AC if the temperature is below 55 degrees. A lot of times for half of the year, it's like that. So we're not going to know anything until spring. Just know that going into it. B, if there's snow on the roof, can't really do a very good inspection up there. Okay, so just set those expectations clients right away so that they know where those things are limited. So we're not in the middle of the inspection walkthrough and like, well, why didn't you go up on the roof? Well, because it's covered in snow. Wasn't able to do that. Maybe your inspector uses a drone, can still get out there and get something done. But make sure you're having those conversations of what the inspector is looking for. What an inspection is versus what an inspection is not. They're not structural engineers. They're looking at the home as it is now. They can't magically see through walls. So just make sure you're having those conversations. If you do radon tests in your area, if you do sewer scopes, chimney scopes, make sure you're having those conversations and add on to the inspection, what to expect here, and let them know they're paying for this out of pocket too. The inspection, potentially the appraisal, depending on your lender, are costs that they're going to have to incur throughout this process. So make sure you're talking through them, through this process. Okay, so the inspection period is the next big one. I like to let them know, during this time too. Once we have an accepted offer, A, we have to get the earnest money in, schedule our inspection, and B, the lender is going to start doing a lot of stuff at this time too. They're going to start underwriting your file, they're going to start ordering title. This is not the time to have any crazy things happen with your credit. Don't miss any credit card payments. Don't open any new lines of credit. Don't buy a new car. If you're going to go furniture shopping, make sure you're talking to your lender first. You don't have A, you're not opening a line of credit through the furniture store, and B, you're not cutting a big check right before closing. Underwriters don't like to see that. So have these conversations with them. Your lender's going to have these conversations with them, but just line up everything out, because nothing is worse than getting to that home stretch, that last week, and then something crazy happens and you got to delay closing or closing falls apart because something crazy happened with credit that could have been avoidable. So make sure you're walking them through this entire process of what's happening kind of on the back end here too. And I like to let them know, hey, you know, it's always a weird situation where you're working with me. We're looking at homes. Every weekend. We're talking, darn near every day. And then once we get something in our contract and we get past the inspection period, I am still here for you every step of the way, but just might not hear from me as much because I kind of pass the figurative ball to the underwriters, to the loan processors, and the title companies. And I'm still working with them. I'm still going to reach out to you when we have updates. But a lot of times in this process, no news is good news. I like to kind of set that stage for them right out here too. I tell them that during the inspection, after the inspection as well. Just they don't think I forgot about them or something like that. But always reassuring them, always there for them every step of the way. And I'm still doing a lot of stuff on the back end, making sure everything is moving through these processes. And I am doing these things. I am reaching out to the underwriters saying, hey, are we on track? Has the appraisal been ordered yet? I reach out to my title company, any defects here? Where are things looking at? I'm doing a lot of things behind the scenes they probably have no idea about. And we want to, again, make sure that we're having conversations, that we're constantly working on their files, making sure things are moving in the right direction and building that value as a good buyer's agent. Now, as we're walking through this process, again, walk them through underwriting, through title search, walk them through the appraisal, let them know, hey, we can buy this house for whatever price we want, but the bank is going to be there to make sure it's a good investment for the bank. Appraiser is going to come through. They're going to do their thing. Again, it's a cost for you, potentially, depending on how your lender sets it up. But walk them through what that process means, what that hurdle means, and go through there, and then let them know, hey, before we close on this home, we're going to do a final walkthrough. Typically, depending on your state, whatever's normal there. Typically, we do ours kind of the night before or morning of. I know some places it's the morning of, or it's right there. Some people are closing in the home now with mobile notaries. Just make sure you have a conversation, whatever it looks like. Reassure them that we're going to walk this property one more time. Make sure it has not substantially changed since we first saw it. Make sure the sellers weren't hiding anything. They didn't have a picture up on a wall covering a huge hole in the wall. We're going to make sure all the appliances still work and the water heater hasn't died, or the furnace hasn't died since we first saw, or since the inspectors have been in here. Make sure everything looks good before we make this your home officially. And walk them through what the closing table is going to look like. You're going to need to wire funds. You're going to need to get cashier's check, whatever is common for your state. Sit down with the escrow officer, the closer, the lawyer, again, whatever your state does. Walk you through all the process, all the loan docs. Make sure you have a valid form of identification, sometimes 2 forms of identification, depending on your state and your loan officer. Walk them through this entire process from the very get-go so they feel good about it. And I said, if you have a pamphlet or a booklet, send it off with them. This is going to be kind of their guiding light through everything. Make sure, reassure them that you're always there for them throughout the process. I also like in my booklet, the very last page, I have like a preferred vendor list on there. I have my handyman on there, my painters on there, carpet people, whoever you might need to help maintain your home going forward. I had my preferred vendors on there, the people that I have personally vetted, work with. They've done work on my house. I trust them. They're going to get you a good bargain. And again, you're providing value because, owning a home is a lot of things that can go wrong. It's hard to find good tradesmen and craftsmen, depending on where you're at. It's hard everywhere. There's shortages. So again, just providing value that, hey, these are people I worked with and vetted with. And make sure you keep working with these people and keep vetting these people because if they start falling off, you need to be able to replace them with somebody else. It's having a good plumber is one thing, but sometimes they get really busy, they get bogged down, and then they start giving good service. Make sure you have another backup plumber on there that you can plug and play into your recommendations, so you have good value you're always providing to your clients, both during the process as well as after the process of buying a home as well. And then there you have it. There is how I sit down with everything. At that point in time, I'm going to say, hey, now for me to be a buyer's agent, we're going back to this contract thing. Time to get this buyer representation signed up so I can best represent you and get you into your next home. And I'm hopefully, you're excited to work with me. I'm excited to work with you. And let's get to work on buying your next house. Get the paperwork signed, get them set up on a search portal. Make sure you're sending them properties as well. And, just again, having a good consultation right from the get-go, showing your value is more important probably now than it ever has been within our industry. Just making sure that they have clear expectations of everything that's happening, all the fees, the entire process from beginning to end, again, is very important. Regardless of where this trial ends up going, this will make you a better real estate agent. There's just no question about it. And you will get more referrals from this. You will have a better experience with your clients from this, and you'll just end up being a better agent overall. So I said, if you want what my pamphlet looks like, send me an email, text me, everything. All my contact information is always down below. Happy to share that with you. If you want to role play, go through some of this stuff, again, call me, let me know. Happy to role play with you, walk you through some of this stuff here as well. It's all about being better agents, so that you can help more people and get them into the home that they're looking for.